Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Scruffy Movies podcast. I'm Zach Wallace.
And I'm John Crocker.
And today we have one that's, I always feel like whenever we do big franchises and stuff, it seems like it's a long time coming. And this is a franchise that I don't really feel like we talk about day to day. So that's probably why it kind of slipped past, but one that has influenced my life pretty greatly nonetheless. And it just recently got a new addition added to it, and that's the Toy Story franchise.
Heck yeah, definitely one of the defining franchises of, I guess, animation, but really movies in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. This was the first, and we talked about this a little bit a couple days ago. This was the first computer animated movie of all time, was the first Toy Story in 1995. And up until that point, the guys who founded Pixar, people were like laughing in their faces that they said they wanted to animate a movie entirely by computers.
And back in those days, I mean, it took forever for them to do that. I mean, it was a lot of work. The original Toy Story was a ton of work, if I recall correctly.
Oh yeah, I mean, even the movies now are a ton of work because even though it's not like a new technology anymore, Pixar is always refining it and trying to make it better. Like, for instance, I saw Toy Story 4 last night, and one of the things I like to do whenever I watch a movie is read the trivia about it on IMDb. And they were saying, like, the woman who voices Bo Peep, Annie Potts, was saying she started recording lines for Toy Story 4 in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah.
So speaking of Bo Peep, because she goes missing right before Toy Story 4.
Yeah, she's not in Toy Story 3, and basically they make no reference to that fact.
Oh, so she's just surprised she's back.
Oh, no, sorry. I meant they don't reference the fact that she's gone in Toy Story 3. I think other than maybe a line where he's just like, yeah, and all these people are gone now. We're going to be soon. And he like lists a couple people and he says Bo Peep in that. But yes, they do explain why she left, why she wasn't in Toy Story 3. And then there is like an explanation for why she comes back in this and all that stuff.
Well, I know Toy Story 4 is still brand new in theaters, but we have a tradition of spoiling things. So I am going to ask you just to at least give me the sort of the synopsis. Like, what's Toy Story 4 about? Spoil as much as you feel like you should.
Okay, so Toy Story, and this is something that was on my mind as I was leaving. Toy Story has always been great about their allegorical comparisons to the real life of the children that have been growing up with Toy Story since the beginning. And I feel like this one just hits nail on the head for where we are in our lives now. Like, they always make it for people to enjoy, but I really feel like they sit down and they're like, okay, our core audience for these kids who saw Toy Story 1 in theaters, where are they at now? Because every single movie has had that effect. I feel like the first movie was you're a kid, you're young, you're about to start school, or you're graduating, or there's a lot of changes going on. And there's a lot of new people coming into your lives that don't have the same worldviews as you. And that's kind of what Toy Story 1 was about, with the confrontation between Woody and Buzz, the whole movie, of being a toy or not being a toy. And then Toy Story 2, whilst kind of stepping a little bit away from the allegorical stuff, I think can still make some comparisons, because it's like, okay, now you've found your true friends and you have to fight to keep those relationships going. It's not just easy. Like, nothing's ever just a breeze. You have to figure out who your true family is, which for a lot of people is their friends, and then fight to keep those people in your life and keep your life going the way you want it to. And then Toy Story 3 was, you're grown up now. It's time to move on to the next phase in your life, but that doesn't mean that your childhood things are over with, as we saw with Andy giving his toys to Bonnie at the end of the third one, and it kind of breathed new life into those toys and they were able to be played with again. And then Toy Story 4, straight up, like, it goes for like, okay, so you thought what you were going to be doing isn't what you were going to be doing, and life has taken a couple turns you didn't see coming, and now you're having to live with that. So how do you find your best life even though it's not what you thought it was going to be? And it goes like straight, like, there were so many comparisons, I feel like, to people that, and I'm sure you felt this too, people like from my college, even some of my friends were like, not really sure where they were going to go. But this movie was all about life doesn't go where you think it's going to go, and you just have to find your happiness anyway. It was extremely good, and I'm not going to lie, I cried. Uh, but to get a little bit into the plot, basically they've been living with Bonnie for a little while. I'm not sure it goes directly into, because I can't remember it if they did say, it's not coming to me right now, how long it's been between Toy Story 3 and 4. Not long, though. A year at most. And the toys are kind of being played with. They're kind of not being played with. Woody is not being played with. He's one of the toys that just sits in the closet and basically collects dust. And so Bonnie's having to be taken to kindergarten. And she seems really nervous about everything. She doesn't really want to go. And so Woody talks to kind of Bonnie's toy, who's the Woody of that room, who kind of runs everything. And he's like, she seems a little nervous. Somebody should go with her. And that toy basically shuts him down. She's like, no, nobody should go with her. It's just going to get her in trouble. And so then Woody still sneaks in the backpack and goes with her. And you see her, she's like really sad and stuff. So Woody finds some art supplies and kind of throws them up to her without her seeing what happened. And she ends up making this little fork, this spork figure, which I'm sure you've seen in like the marketing and stuff. His name's Forky. And he basically comes to life and becomes sentient. And so the movie at the beginning that kind of kicks off the plot is this spork Woody's trying to say, like, he's extremely important to Bonnie right now because she made him on the first day of kindergarten, and it's like what's helping her get through all of these transitions. But Forky wants nothing to do with that. He's like, I was from trash. I just want to go back to trash. Like, I'm not a toy. I'm trash. And so it's Woody having to kind of take this spork under his wing and be its babysitter almost. And so basically they go on a road trip. Forky jumps out of the car. Woody goes to find them. As they're getting back to the RV, they come across an antique store where Woody sees Bo Peep's lamp, who he hasn't seen in a long time. He goes in there to try and find her, and it kicks off this entire plot where Bo Peep comes back, and there's all of these lost toys that have to help Forky and everybody get back to Bonnie before everything's over with. And it's this big, it really takes place all within probably 2 days, maybe. And it's all like everything's kind of coming together, new toys and old toys, to try and get everybody back to Bonnie at the same time and all this stuff. And there's a lot of like little sub arcs and character plots that go throughout, but it is very good. And there is one like big spoiler, basically how the movie ends. And I don't know if you want to know that or not.
Go for it.
So the movie ends with Bo Peep is a lost toy, and she now finds purpose in like helping other lost toys find kids to play with them. So we see like a lot of lost toys running to the playground and stuff, like as a bus full of kids pulls up so they can get played with. And basically at the end of the movie starts with Woody almost getting in a giveaway box, which Bo Peep is in. It goes back in time to show you kind of how Bo Peep left. And Woody almost gets in the box to leave with her, to just be lost with her. And then you see Andy come running outside, and he starts screaming about how he can't find Woody and everything like that. And so Woody doesn't go in the box with her. And he's like, Andy still needs me. Well, at the end of this movie, Buzz and the rest of the toys are like, Bonnie's going to be fine. Live your life, Woody. Like, we're fine. And so it ends with Woody going off with Bo Peep and the rest of these lost toys who we've met throughout the course of the movie. And he splits with the rest of the Toy Story gang, who go back with Bonnie and leave.
Oh, man.
And it is incredibly sad. I was tearing up like nothing. Like, I thought Toy Story 3, I was crying. And I was like, oh, man, it's so sad. Wow. But like, I started really crying in this.
So did it feel like did they sunset Woody, or did they sort of set it up so that now we've got like possibility for more misadventures in the future between, the ones still with Bonnie and then the ones that are out there?
Yeah, see, that's what I said whenever I left and I was talking to my wife. I was like, well, now they've set up, they can continue the movies, I feel like, with Buzz and all the rest of those characters still being with Bonnie. But then like Woody and Bo Peep, and then Jordan Peele and Keegan Keegan-Michael Key's character and Keanu Reeves' character, they all like team up at the end. That's like the group of toys that are helping toys find owners. And that sets up for like, that would be an awesome like Disney Plus show.
Yeah, I would just hate for, oh gosh, I mean, I kind of think Woody though and his gang should be for the movies, and the others be for the TV show. But then you've got Buzz and all the others. Oh, I don't know. If you had to choose one of the gangs to have a TV show and one to continue down the movie road, it would be hard to choose.
I am much more interested in Woody, honestly, in Woody and his gang and their adventures, because I like all the characters that are still with Bonnie, and that's like literally everybody else. So Buzz, Jesse, Mr. Potato Head, Bullseye, like all of those characters are still with Bonnie, but we've seen those characters play with kids and go on these like misadventures before, you know? But like this is brand new territory for Toy Story with Woody. We've never seen like lost toys.
So, which one would you rather see more movies of, and which one would you rather see a TV show of?
Yeah, see, that's kind of was my thought process behind Buzz and them can have the movies, because that's like I have seen them do their misadventures, but if they have a really good story, sure, make a movie about it, you know? But Woody and his gang have so much potential for TV series, like season after season of good TV shows and arcs of like, because now they're lost. With Bonnie, it's relatively safe. You know, like these toys, and this movie series has taken place over, give or take, about a 15-year time period. And these toys have only really had like 4 crazy adventures, which are made into the Toy Story movies. So we've kind of seen what the toys can do with Bonnie. And so it's relatively safe. And that's why I kind of like movies. If you have a good story, go for it. Make another movie with those toys. But the avenue they took Woody down just presents so much potential for new stories that we haven't seen like anything yet. And that seems very interesting to me for like a TV series.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of all the Toy Story movies, because it always ends up happening, and you even mentioned it for this movie, is that they somehow like wind up being thrown out of a car, or like having to get back to a moving vehicle, or like I think they even drove around the Pizza Planet truck in like 2 or something like that. So I think they have enough like real world street smarts that in a TV show they could really just kind of like tromp around and do things. And if Woody needed to go back to Bonnie's house and like get the help of everyone else, like he would probably be able to do that. Like just make that happen. Like hop on an RC car in the middle of the night and like ride across town. Like I could see them sort of having their own way out in the world and sneaking under cones, traffic cones and that type of stuff, to
Yeah.
the point that they could really get around out there in a badass show.
Well, they've even, and it kind of answers a question that you just had of like sneaking around under traffic cones and stuff. In this movie, they've retrofitted an RC car to have like a fake skunk on top of it. So they just sit like in the RC car with the skunk on top of them and drive wherever they need to. And people just think it's a skunk.
Yeah, see, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And when you sort of when you can do that type of stuff, you can unleash them on the greater world instead of inside of Andy's house and Sid's house and Pizza Planet.
Yeah, and plus there's so much like, and it's what I have been saying for this whole conversation so far. We've never seen like lost toys, like we've seen like Lotso Huggin' Bear was lost in Toy Story 3, but then he found his way to, I think it was Sunnyside, the daycare. Like all of these toys have their place that we've seen in 1, 2, and 3 so far, but we've never seen toys just like on their own doing whatever they want. What does that look like? And we explored a little bit in this movie, and it sets up for like, yeah, I want to see more. Give me some more of that. That was really good. Please.
Looks like Sausage Party when they do whatever they want.
Yeah.
That's what we need, is a Toy Story Sausage Party crossover.
I think Disney would implode if somebody did that.
Yeah, if someone even brought that idea into a board meeting, they would implode.
But yeah, extremely good movie, extremely like super heartfelt, and it also kind of gives that like life isn't taking the routes you think it's going to take, but like there's also like some childhood friends and stuff that you probably don't talk to that much anymore. It doesn't mean you're not friends, but you just don't see each other that much anymore. And it kind of takes all of that and makes it into one big like allegory. It was a really good movie. Also, probably the funniest Toy Story that's been so far.
Really?
Hilarious. I belly laughed at least 2 or 3 times.
Some of the humor in the original one, I think, is still just like the best.
Yeah, this one, and also like really good action and really good like backstories for characters and stuff. Keanu Reeves' character, who plays basically a Canadian Evil Knievel toy named Duke Kaboom, was amazing.
Yeah, everyone's talking about Duke Kaboom. I was curious how they were going to pull Forky into it as well, because I've definitely seen, the character and all the marketing materials, and was very curious what role that was going to play.
Yeah, he's probably this movie, while the other toys are in it. I mean, even I would say Buzz is like fourth or fifth lead, I would say, honestly. Woody is definitely first, and then probably Bo is second, and then probably Forky's third. And there's a lot of like new toys they interact with. Basically, with the exception of Buzz Lightyear, who joins them on their journey a little later, it's all about just Woody hanging out with new toys. And the old toys are in Bonnie's RV trying to like stall the family and stuff in order to give time for Woody and everybody to get back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm glad to see they continued with the Bonnie thing too, because I thought that was weird, and I guess it was 3 where we got introduced to her to the first time, and then everyone sort of got left with her and all of that. And I mean, it was closure and all, but I just thought the Bonnie thing was weird. I don't know. I wanted Andy to throw him in the attic and keep him forever and never pass him on.
Well, yeah, and
Even though they got to get played with, I know.
and that's actually a good point that they make in Toy Story 4, and it's a good reason why like I thought Toy Story 3 was a good conclusion, but then when they presented this new Toy Story 4, and as I was watching it, I was like, oh, now I understand why they couldn't have ended it with 3, because Woody in this movie, Woody hasn't gotten over Andy. Like Woody was Andy's toy more than anybody else, and so that's basically his entire like storyline in this movie is he just needs to get Forky back to Bonnie, because that's the last thing he has to do before he can just retire himself to the closet full time, where he's just accepted the fact that he's not going to get played with anymore. Like, but he has never gotten over Andy. Even a few times when he's talking to Forky, he's like, I have to get you back to Andy. And Forky's like, who's Andy? And he goes, oh, Bonnie. Like he's just never gotten over it. And watching this movie, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He wouldn't get over that. Like he was Andy's toy through and through. Everybody else was played with, but Woody was there from like the beginning, his favorite toy for years, like his best friend. Of course he wouldn't get over that.
Yeah, these movies have always had such like a sad twinge to them. Always, they're every single Toy Story movie has had like a really sad moment. I feel like, or a few,
Yeah.
and they deal with some like not exactly sunshine and rainbow sort of points and themes. It's always been surprising that, well, I mean, it's not surprising that they continue doing that because it's sort of a formula that works, but it's surprising that some of the most popular, like, most waited for movies of all time are not like the happy-go-lucky animation. They're the more true to life storytelling.
Well, and I think that's kind of one of their better points. They're not just a throwaway. They're not just an entertaining 2 hours. They make you think, and they make you question, and they make you believe in something more than just like the Angry Birds movie. And not to shit on that movie, people worked really hard on that movie, but that's just the first one that came to my head. Was just made to be entertaining. Like you weren't supposed to leave the theater and be like, wow, what do you really like? If the birds and the pigs existed in real life, what would you really But Toy Story has always been good about that, about like, wow, like really think about people other than yourself, like just even these toys that are sitting around. Do you play with them enough? Like, what lives are they living? Like, it's just always made you think more than other animated movies, you know?
Very true. And it's one of those things that, I mean, I think we've gotten away from that with all entertainment. I mean, back in the day, like early cartoons, even like usually they had like a, you learned a lesson. Like it was something that was pretty popular in most all child's entertainment. For anything made for like kids would be at some point you learned an important lesson in there. There was like a parable or something valuable. And I feel like we've slowly just gotten away from that. And Toy Story is one of the last holdouts. But like you said, it wouldn't be Toy Story without it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And it's really like movies now are, and I think it's because it's like the smartphone generation. It's people who, if you're bored of one thing, you can switch to something else. Doesn't matter. And so movies now, especially for kids, but I'm just in general, a lot of movies are made to just be entertaining or like set up for the next one. Like it's just meant to hold your attention for those 2 hours. You're not really supposed to talk about it afterwards. If you do, great. But if not, oh well. Like we just wanted you to come spend your money for 2 hours and we got you in the door because we made it look just entertaining enough. Other than that, we don't really care. If it's successful, great. We'll make 8 more. But if it's not, oh well, we're not losing money on it.
Yeah, it's like entertainment and media. It's just cheap now. Like they are cheap as an item, because people are bouncing from one thing to another. It is all about instantaneous gratification. At one point in the past, it was like, man, if we're going to go to all this effort to make a thing, we should at least, put some value in it and actually think it through. And of course, everything back in the day would correlate usually to some pre-existing story or arch framework or something another. And now it's like they can just rip it out, and it's so much of it is just surface level, just keep you entertained, which some of what I think are some of the greatest movies, especially recently, that maybe the critics didn't like or anything like that, but they kept you entertained. And yeah, you didn't leave like earning some new badge or learning some new life lesson or even making you really think. And sometimes that's all you want, is to be entertained. But the volume of that is starting to surpass the volume of like good quality content, I would say, for the first time.
Yeah, and that's just like ease of access now, I would say. Like we both have the quality of cameras that we have access to just sitting in our pockets every day. People like even in the 80s would have killed for that kind of technology. Like that's $1 million technology in the 80s to shoot like big budget Hollywood movies on. If you and I really wanted to like shoot a movie, all we would need is a good script and like some professional lighting and maybe a sound guy. But our phone can do everything else. It can shoot, edit, like it can do everything else.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I remember when not too very long ago, Polaroids were like all the rage. That was not necessarily like in my lifetime, but it definitely bled over into my lifetime to where I remember it.
Yeah, and I did see actually at ThinkGeek the other day, there was a Stranger Things Polaroid camera released, and it was like $150, but it was like a legit Polaroid camera. Like you could take Polaroid pictures, and as soon as you took it, it would like shoot out so that you could see the picture immediately.
That has to be like just the number one like hipster accessory item, is to carry around a Polaroid camera around your neck. I mean, you are like the boss level hipster if you're walking around with a Polaroid camera.
Oh yeah, there's a YouTuber I watch now that started, he's gotten really into just taking like disposable camera pictures. So he just walks around with a disposable camera and takes like disposable camera pictures and stuff. He has an entire Instagram dedicated to it now.
Like the old Fujifilm, like
Yeah.
cardboard wrapped disposable cameras.
Yeah, like what if you were going on like an 8th grade field trip, what your parents would grab you from CVS pharmacy before you got on
Yeah.
the bus.
Yes, dude. I haven't seen one of those in so long. I still have one somewhere that I never got the pictures on developed.
Yeah.
I came across it like 5 or 6 years ago, and like one day, way in the future, I'm gonna take it and get them developed.
You better hurry up before all those places like shut down. You're gonna have to
Man,
go to some like niche market.
I just have to mail it off probably.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure there's somebody in the world that's kept one of those. That's like, oh, I'm just waiting for the hipsters to start picking up disposable cameras again.
There's probably some CVS in Alaska that still has the machine that you stick it in to do it. You might have to find someone on Craigslist and like mail it to their house and pay them to go do it at their local CVS.
Well, I guess since we're kind of on the topic of childhood, speaking and going a little bit back to Toy Story, what was your first impression of this franchise? I don't know if you have one like cemented in your mind, but I have one cemented in my head. And I think I've already shared it on this podcast before, where I remember my mom taking me to the movies and everything to see it and thinking like that they were going to come out of the screen afterwards and walk down the aisle and see everybody. Like I thought I was basically at a play, but I was at a movie. And it's the first movie that I distinctly remember being like, sentient sounds like a weird word because you're sentient when you're a baby, but the memories fade. But it's the first movie I remember, like I can remember having memories of watching it. So do you have an impression like that of the Toy Story franchise, or you just like kind of always liked the movies and don't really remember one specific thing?
No, I mean, this is the first one that I haven't been to see like opening night. Like I remember going to see the original Toy Story with my parents when I was really young and watching it a lot, growing up. And I remember it being special. Like I remember my parents really liking it because there was just enough humor in it for them that, they would choose it over other movies if we were going to rewatch it at home or something like that. And I remember it being sort of special in its own right because of just the technology that it was back then was still, everyone sort of knew how impressive it was when it came out, and the little short before it was a big deal and all of that. But the Toy Story franchise as a whole is one that's like I've loved, but and especially the original Toy Story I watched a lot, but the rest of them just sort of came about and went. Like I like Toy Story 2 the second most, and then 3 I really didn't like that much. And I
What?
mean, it's not that I didn't like it. It's just that I didn't like the characters. Like I don't know. I just didn't fall in love with it. I was like, okay, cool, another Toy Story entry. But like the old mean like Warden Bear, I didn't like that. I didn't like Bonnie. I don't know. There's just a lot of decisions they made that I didn't like. So I wasn't super pumped about 4, though I know it's going to be great too. Like they're good movies, but the first one like really I was super into growing up, and then after that, I don't know. They were just kind of sad. They were kind of scary in the wrong ways when you were young. I don't know.
Oh
They
yeah.
I liked them, but they didn't. They definitely were not a staple of my childhood.
Oh, they were definitely a staple of mine. Like I remember I don't even remember what birthday it was for now, but all I wanted was Toy Story 2 on VHS, and I got like glitter markers instead. And I remember trying to not be a spoiled child, and I was like crying at the dinner table at coloring with my glitter markers. And my parents were like, look behind you. And I was like, I'm just enjoying my glitter markers. And they were like, look behind you. And I turned around and looked, and it was Toy Story 2 on VHS. And I was like, oh my God. And I like threw the glitter markers away and never used them again. I was just trying to like not seem ungrateful. But maybe it's because I was like Andy's age in the movies once they were able to catch up, especially Toy Story 3. That was my senior year of high school. And it was literally Andy's senior year of high school too. So that one connected with me more on like a this is actually happening level. But I have loved all of those movies. They have been extremely influential to me, I would say. And now Toy Story 4, super good one. Probably not going to be as influential to me because I'm not a child and like my brain isn't forming as much anymore, but still an extremely good movie that kind of gives you that like, hey, you're okay feeling of like childhood, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, well they've all been great at that.
Yeah, these are like comfort. It's the same as like that 70s show and stuff to me. It's just comfort where even if I'm not at home, I can watch it and I'm at home. You know?
Is there one? Oh, what does that sound mean?
That's how it means it's halftime. Whoop. So if you haven't listened to the podcast before, halftime is the part of our show where Crocker and I take a break from the conversation we're having. We go over recent movie news, movie trailers, things we're excited about. And this has also been the part of the show where we've been giving away a free digital copy. We're going to continue that this week with, and I don't know about you, Crocker, I don't think so, actually, because I think we've had this conversation before. But when I was a kid, I loved sneaking and watching AMC Fear Fest and all this other type of stuff. Basically, I just loved watching scary movies when I knew I kind of wasn't supposed to. So in honor of that, we're giving away a free digital copy of the brand new from like a year ago, but the newest Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, Leatherface. So if you want to be entered to win that, all you got to do is comment the code word chainsaw below or direct message me at Scruffy Movies on Instagram. Again, the code word is chainsaw, and you'll be entered to win a free digital copy of the newest Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, Leatherface.
Nice. Haven't seen that one.
Actually really good. Surprised me how much I enjoyed it. And I will say it doesn't really feel that much like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, but it's a very good horror movie. So I don't want to discolor people from entering the competition. Still enter because it's a really good movie, but it just doesn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really good.
Sweet. All right. Should I start?
Yeah, what you got? Because I got a list, and you might cover some of mine.
Okay. Well, I do want to start by saying I finally got around to seeing Us.
Oh, have you? We literally just rented that today. We have not watched it yet. We're gonna watch it tonight.
Okay, we can talk about it next week then.
Okay, but it was good.
It was good, but it wasn't great.
It was so lesser than Get Out, you would say?
Yes.
Okay.
For sure. Some things just didn't make sense. Like, I don't know. They took a lot of liberties. Like, in a horror movie, like, I want you to explain it, some things, and they do a good job of sort of explaining some stuff, but then other things, it's just kind of like, all right, there's no way that this should be happening right here, right now. Like that, now you're just doing things because you can, just to keep the movie rolling.
Mm.
But it was a pretty good horror movie. It was the same type of horror as Get Out, where it's like they did a good job of like not abusing jump scares. They didn't abuse like gore or shock or anything like that. It was a good horror movie. Like I still think it was a good movie, but it wasn't great. It wasn't as good as Get Out.
Okay.
You'll see what I mean.
That's a lot of modern horror movies these days, so I can deal with that.
Yeah, that's true. I did see a trailer for Killer Man. Have you seen that yet?
No, I haven't even heard of that.
It's Thor. Oh, Liam Hemsworth. Isn't that how you say his name?
Yeah, but that's not Thor. You mean Thor's brother?
Oh, is it Thor's brother?
Yeah.
I thought they looked a little different.
Yeah. Chris Hemsworth is Thor. Liam Hemsworth is his brother. That was in Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Liam Hemsworth.
They look the exact same in the trailer. In the trailer, he looks a lot like Thor. Anyway, good. I'm glad I said his name and not just called him Thor and kept rolling. A movie called Killer Man. It looks like I want it to be really good, but it almost seems like it's just going to be another one of those generic like action movies where the main guy has amnesia and he kind of has to like figure out who he is and what he's doing. It's about like a money launderer. And it looks good enough that it gets me excited when I see the trailer. But at the same time, I'm like, man, it could just be another generic amnesia action movie.
Yeah.
And then something that I had no idea was coming back around is the Iron Sky sequel, The Coming Race.
Yeah.
Which I'm super pumped about. Had no idea that Iron Sky was getting a sequel. And I didn't know. And for those that don't know, Iron Sky is like Nazis on the moon, like journey to the center of the earth. There's dinosaurs. It gets crazy. great. I've always sort of called that those types of movies, and definitely Iron Sky just looped them into like the B real Nazi movies that sort of circulated on Netflix like a few years ago. And the last thing I ever expected was another giant movie to come out in the same franchise. And apparently it was all crowdfunded, and it looks awesome as far as like looks awesome. I don't know if the movie looks like it's definitely going to be good, but just the visuals on it look fantastic. And the, I guess, production company or whatever it is that's doing it is called Iron Sky Universe, which I was not aware of either. And I'm hoping that that is sort of a catalyst to roll this into an actual greater, like bigger universe with lots of stories and lots of movies to tell. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, really, any movie can happen nowadays as long as you got like people behind you, you know, like with all these crowdfunding sites, you can do whatever you want as long as your idea catches. So if people really like this Iron Sky, guess what? There's going to be Iron Sky 3, 4, 5. Like, as long as people keep paying money, why not keep making it?
I hope so.
Is that
All right,
it?
that's all I got.
Oh, wow. I got a lot more than you.
That's fine. Lay it on me.
Okay, so first up, a couple trailers I saw. We got a new Stranger Things 3 trailer, which goes a bit more into the story of what's going to happen. Looks like the Mind Flayer is still there, and he might possess Billy, which is the main bully character, Max's brother from the second season. So that seems really interesting. I'm super excited for that. That comes out on July 4th. We also got a trailer for Trolls World Tour, which is the second Trolls movie, which I don't know if you've seen the first Trolls movie.
No.
Surprisingly, very good. I liked it a lot, actually. And this movie looks like it's basically Infinity War, but for trolls. Like, it's about, there's 6 different troll communities, and they each have a string that relates to a different genre of music. And there's one rock troll who's like a rock and roll troll that wants to unite the 6 strings to erase all other music besides rock and roll.
What?
So it's basically Infinity War, but with the trolls.
And that is obviously a remake of the old classic like troll movies.
Yeah, like this is the like the toy trolls. This is like the movie.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting a lot of remakes of like the old horrors between Annabelle and Chucky and It and everything else. It's sort of like in vogue right now to dig up a lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's people are definitely reliving their childhoods through modern media right now. 100%. But that trailer actually looked pretty good. So I'm not gonna go to the theaters to see it, but probably like the day it comes on Redbox, I'll probably rent it. Let's see what else. Oh, there was another new trailer for a movie called Bad Trip, which I believe you've seen as well.
Remind me again which one that is.
Eric Andre prank movie.
Oh yes. That looks hilarious. It's like Bad Grandpa.
Yeah, and I can't wait for that. I love Eric Andre and the pranks he pulls on people, and this looks like it's basically a movie that has a story, but it's just going to be nothing but an excuse to prank people, and I can't wait to see it. It looks really good. The trailer made me laugh a couple times, so I know the movie's going to make me laugh.
I really want at some point Johnny Knoxville or even the dude that did Borat or somebody to be in that movie and just make like an off-color joke about how they're doing his movie, pretty much, because it is like the same idea. This is just like the 3rd or 4th time we've seen it.
Yeah, but it's a good subgenre. It's not one that I feel like has been explored very much yet, and people love to see it.
Yeah, but how much can you? I mean, I guess you could, but I don't know. I would rather just see another Jackass style TV show. But I guess some people want like the story to go with it and the theatrical release and all that.
Well, they've tried that actually a couple times. Jackass seems to be lightning in a bottle because there's no shortage of people willing to do dumb stuff to get on MTV. There was even a new show out that I watched a little bit of called Too Stupid to Die, which is basically just new Jackass. It just was a group of people doing stupid stuff, and it came on MTV. And that show failed miserably like people just only wanted Jackass for some reason. They just liked Jackass. Like it was the first one to do it. And so that's what people latched onto.
Well, we cared about the characters. I mean, everybody knew who Johnny Knoxville and Bam and Wee Man and Chris Pontius and, you know, Ron Dunn, all those boys. Like, people knew who they were.
Yeah. But also a couple movies started. Well, one movie didn't start shooting, but it announced when it was going to be shooting. They announced a Halloween 2, which is the sequel to the most recent Halloween that just came out, which in itself is a direct sequel to the first Halloween. So this is technically Halloween 3. So I don't know if they're going to call it Halloween 2 or Halloween 3 or like Halloween Strode or something like that. But that's going to start shooting in fall and aiming for a 2020 release.
Yeah, I bet they give it some weird name and not a number.
Yeah.
That franchise is so back and forth on the numbers, it's weird.
Yeah. Very, very strange. And then one actually started shooting this week, finally, after it's been in production hell for the last 20, 30 years. Bill and Ted 3, officially called Bill and Ted Face the Music, started shooting this week.
Yeah. So I just assumed that it was never like greenlit. Has it really been in like production hell for that many years?
Well, yeah, I don't know if like greenlit or anything, but definitely them trying to think of what the third story would be and come up with that and find the funding and find the right time for everybody to come back. It has been in the works since Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey came out in like 92 or whatever that was.
Jeez, that is one I'm definitely looking forward to. It won't be the same without George Carlin, though.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty sad. Hopefully, I'm sure they'll have a good because I would say that was probably his like most famous movie role. So I'm sure they'll have something where they commemorate Rufus and all that stuff.
Yes, Rufus, that was his name.
Yeah.
Great name, Rufus.
Also, A Quiet Place 2 started shooting this week. Very excited about that. The first Quiet Place was awesome. Definitely a new, interesting horror movie that we've gotten over the last couple years, much like Get Out and the most recent It. Relied more on the story than the scares. It was just a good story that happened to be set in a horror world, and that's the same thing that hopefully the sequel is going to be. So I'm very excited for that to start shooting. Spider-Man Far From Home started getting some early reactions. People are calling it amazing. They're saying make sure you stay for both after credit scene because they're going to blow your mind. Apparently, like big stuff's dropping, or I don't know. Usually people are like, after credits were really fun on this one. But in almost every one I've seen, people are just saying it's mind-blowing what they do in the after credit scene on Far From Home.
Hey, while you're on after credits real quick, the re-release of Avengers, apparently that's going to be like the main difference. Is it's not like a director's cut or an extended cut. The movie's not going to be any different. It'll just have like a new end credit. It'll actually have, I guess, an end credit scene.
Well, I did see apparently it is 6 minutes longer. Cinemark, the theater chain, listed it on its website as being 6 minutes longer than the original cut that was released. And I have seen a lot of people think it's going to be like an after credits scene, and then people think it's going to be like an in memoriam to Stan Lee and Iron Man and like Black Widow, the characters.
I don't know. I've seen a couple things from pretty reliable sources that say the movie itself will not be edited. It will be like something stitched on in the style of an after, mid-credit or after-credit scene. So it could be about anything, but it's not like we're going to get extended scenes of existing, extended moments of existing scenes.
Whatever it is, I think it's going to have to be something big because there's a lot of people that I think are going to wait to see if it's something big in order to go back. And they're really hoping a lot of people go back because they want to beat Avatar for the world record and be the #1 movie of all time.
The only reason.
And so it's got to be something huge. Otherwise, like it's just going to end up being nothing, like people are going to see it, just happen to go see it that week and be like, you can skip it. Like the word of mouth's going to kill the rest of the box office for it. So if they don't make the money that weekend, they're not going to make it. So it has to be something big or cool or fun.
I mean, I think in the Marvel Universe, they have the ability to put together like a 5-minute long post-credit anything I mean, they can put together some potent stuff that people would pay an entire ticket price and sit through that entire 3 hour long movie just to see that 5 minute post credit scene. Like,
Yeah.
they could hit that hard. They could swing that heavy. They have the ammo to do that with.
They do. Hopefully that's what it is. And then also just two more things. I told you I had a big list this week. The new Kingsman movie was announced. It's going to be a prequel about the first Kingsman ever, and it's going to be called The King's Man. So that's interesting. I'm also super excited because that universe is rife for stories for the picking. So I'm glad that is actually becoming a universe, and they're not just developing out more Eggsy and Harry stories, which I enjoy, and they're still developing one more that'll kind of close off their chapter of the Kingsman universe. But I'm glad they're like starting to expand now and move beyond just that initial story that we've seen, because I love the Kingsman movies. They are amazing.
Same here. We might need to do a podcast on that topic in the future.
Oh, for sure. And then finally, this isn't any really big news or anything, but a movie that affected me a lot when I was a kid is a movie called Little Monsters. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not.
Little Monsters. Yeah, remind me of what it is, because it sounds super familiar.
Yeah, it's got Howie Mandel and Fred Savage, and basically this kid becomes friends with the monster under his bed. And turns out like that monster, they're basically making waves with this kid coming down there all the time. He starts to kind of turn into a monster, and his monster, like his best friend, who's played by Howie Mandel, starts to not be so accepted in the monster world, and it leads to his little brother being kidnapped. And so him and all of his friends, along with this monster, have to go into the underworld to save his little brother.
Yes, I do recall.
Yeah. And I don't know why that movie just hit me hard when I was a kid. I watched it all the time, and it hit me hard every time. It still does. I don't know. It's a little more real than other kids' movies, which is fitting that I'm talking about this on our Toy Story podcast, because kind of the same for that. But that is actually coming to Netflix July 1st. So if you have not ever seen it, or you haven't seen it in a long time, I definitely suggest checking that out. It is worth a rewatch every few years or so. You're going to get a different point of view every couple years. In one, you'll relate to the kid who's the main part of the story. You're going to relate to the dad. You'll relate to the monster. Like, there's so many good characters in that movie, and it's a really good movie that I like a lot. But you'll relate to somebody different every time. You'll get something different out of it every time. I remember I hadn't watched it for a long time, and then like freshman year of college I watched it, and I was like bawling in my dorm room crying because I got an entirely different message out of it than I got when I was a kid.
Yeah, I feel like that one came out, like there was a whole rash of those types of movies there for a little while.
Oh yeah, but this one was one of the best.
Little Monsters.
Yeah.
The big blue monster.
He was purple, like purple bluish. So yeah.
I think your VHS is wore out.
I think he is blue.
Yeah, he's blue.
He is blue. I'm trying to like think in my head. The VHS cover that I always watched, the background of it was purple. So I think I'm getting him and his skin color confused.
I just think of that kid. Fred Savage was the kid's name, right? He was in like so much when we were kids.
Yeah, Wonder Years, like all that stuff. And his little brother is actually his little brother in real life, Ben Savage, and that's the kid from Boy Meets World who played Corey.
Oh, I can absolutely see it. Yeah. He was the kid in The Princess Bride too.
Yeah, Fred Savage.
Yep.
Yeah. But that was it for me for halftime this week. I had a lot to get through, but it was a good week for just news and stuff in general. So.
Yeah, no kidding. A lot going on there.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there a Toy Story movie out of the four that's like your least favorite?
Probably two, because it just hit me the least. It's a really good movie. I really enjoyed Toy Story 2, but it's just a fun movie. I feel like the rest have those allegorical comparisons that I've been talking about this whole episode. They have something where like they're speaking to you and teaching you a lesson. Toy Story 2 is just a fun movie. It's a really good, fun movie. And they're like, hey, we wanted to make another Toy Story. Let's have fun. But it's not like I feel like every other Toy Story movie, they felt like there's a reason why we need to make this now. Like, we need to make this now and this time for this reason. They had a reason. Toy Story 2 is just like, it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. Let's make Toy Story 2. Toy Story 1 was really good. Let's make Toy Story 2.
What are some of your other favorite Pixar movies?
Ooh, ooh. Um, Incredibles is probably my second favorite, like, Pixar franchise. Oh, or the Monsters Inc. franchise. Oh, I don't know. I love
Well,
both of those.
I still haven't seen Monsters University.
Oh, it is good. It's
Need to,
real good.
need to see that.
And they're doing a Monsters Inc. television show for Disney Plus. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
It's called Monsters at Work, and it takes place after Monsters Inc. and it follows a new monster around, like who works at this scare factory. I guess it's the Laugh Factory at the end of Monsters Inc. with Mike and Sully, but Mike and Sully still come back. They're like recurring characters that will still be in it all the time. But the main character is this new guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would say that Bug's Life is probably my second favorite.
Wow, really? I feel like I don't hear that one a lot. I loved Bug's Life when I was a kid, but I feel like a lot of people just kind of forgot about Bug's Life.
Yeah, I know. It really irritates me that there's not another Bug's Life. I want a Bug's Life Ants crossover, but
That'll never happen. That's too
I
Disney and
know.
DreamWorks.
I know.
And
I
I
really just haven't kept up with like a lot of the new Pixar stuff. Like I've seen Brave, but like that's probably where I draw the line. Like I haven't seen Monsters University, I haven't seen Inside Out, I haven't seen The Good Dinosaur, I still haven't seen Finding Dory.
oh
I
my
think I
gosh, dude,
saw
you gotta watch
Tarzan.
all of those.
No, haven't seen Coco.
They're
I
so
have
good.
seen Incredibles too.
Coco, and I'm not lying. I know I've been talking about how I've been like crying in all these Pixar movies. Coco made me cry the most out of any Pixar movie I've ever seen.
I'll have to check it out.
Other Pixar movies, like I'll like tear up at the end and be like, oh wow, what a like a nice ending. Wow, so good. But Coco, like I was freaking in my living room, tears streaming down my face crying at the end of Coco.
God, no, I just need to sit down one afternoon and have a Pixar day, catch up.
You will not regret it. Some of those that you just named are some of the best ones that they've ever made.
Better than Ratatouille.
Yes,
Oh, I don't know. It's pretty hard.
for sure. The Good Dinosaur is not their strongest effort, but it's still a very good movie. You won't like cry from it, but you'll still enjoy it. But like that, man, Monsters University, amazing, hilarious, and really good. Even like we went through. Oh gosh, I think it was like when Finding Dory was coming out. We went through and rewatched all of the Pixar movies, and Monsters University is so good. It's so funny, and like um Inside Out, you got to see Inside Out. That one, I teared up at that one too. I tear up at all of them. They're just good at pulling those heartstrings.
I don't know. Do you know anything about the two that are coming out, Onward or Soul? I've seen they've started to ramp up the marketing for Soul.
Yeah, I've seen just basically like that they had announced Soul. Onward is the one we've talked about it a little bit, I think, in a halftime before. That's the one where it's the two like elf brothers played by Chris Pratt and Tom Holland that have to go on this like big quest in their world, but their world is basically it's kind of like Bright from Netflix. So it's like these magical creatures have just been living in harmony for so long, so like they know the neighborhoods to stay out of, like, oh, we can't go in there, that's guarded by dragons, but it's just like a regular world, but they have to go on this big like mythical quest to achieve something, and it's just these two like regular dudes who are elves that happen to be living in a magical world.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to both of the ones coming out and going back and watching some of the ones I've missed. I've always known I've needed to loop back around to some of those. I just haven't done it yet.
Oh, you need to, for sure. They are so good. They are very, very, very good.
You think The Good Dinosaur was probably the low point of all of the Pixar movies?
No, Cars 2.
Cars 2 wasn't that terrible.
Good Dinosaur is better. I'm not saying that Cars 2 was terrible because I enjoyed watching Cars 2, but it's the same that we were talking about the Toy Story movies. Pixar is really good about teaching you a lesson. Like you figure something out while you're watching a Pixar movie and it relates to you. Cars 2 was just, hey, Cars did really good. Let's make another one.
Yeah, it did feel rushed.
Like they made it was a spy movie, which was cool. It was a cool aspect to take on, but if they had made it any other characters or world, it would have worked too. It's like somebody came up with the concept of the movie and they went, "Can we do this with cars?" And they were like, "Yeah, I guess so. We'll just have to rewrite it." And they went, "Okay, good. Yeah, let's do that." And so they made just a general movie, but just set it in the Cars universe because Cars 1 did so good.
Yeah, I need to loop back around for sure.
And Cars 3 actually surprised me. Cars 3 is another one that you'll like because I was coming off of Cars 2 being like, entertaining, but you know, it wasn't it's the same as I said about Leatherface, talking about it in halftime. Cars 2 was good, but it didn't feel like a Pixar movie. They have a certain feeling to them. And Cars 3 had that, it brought it back. And Cars 3 was actually really good. I enjoyed it a
Yeah.
lot.
I think Coco's probably the one I'm looking forward to watching the most.
Oh, you're gonna love Coco. It is so good, and they do so good. And I don't even know that much about Mexican culture in general or anything. Basically, just like through movies and TV shows that I've watched before. But they capture the essence of the things that I have seen, and I feel like they go like a lot deeper into the Mexican culture of stuff that I haven't seen. So I feel like watching this movie as a Mexican person versus an American is totally different. Like I feel like they'll get different aspects of the movie from it because there's certain things that they know from their cultural heritage that I just don't know because I didn't grow up in Mexico. But that movie, and it looks gorgeous too, but it's all about like the Day of the Dead and all of this like really cool Mexican heritage stuff. And I always like when movie studios do that, or like it they weren't making it just to make money off of it, you know. They were making it, but they were like, this is a good story, but we got to make sure it's right, you know. Like they weren't spitting in the face and taking that heritage because they were like, this is a cool idea and we need this to make this movie look the way we want it to. But like they actually took the time and like made the effort to get the heritage and cultural stuff correct, which I always really appreciate when studios do that.
Oh yeah, I mean that would be like if the Day of the Dead is such a huge thing
Yeah.
in Mexican culture. Like if they blew that, then they would have hell to pay.
Oh yeah.
Can't mess
Also,
that up.
and I'm no joke in Coco, one of the biggest twists in a not Pixar, not Disney, not kids movie, in a movie I've seen in the last 5 years.
Huh.
I did not see it coming from a mile away. You only see it coming within like the 5 minutes before they reveal the twist, and you're like, "Hey, wait!" It's insane.
Interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, Coco is amazing so far. I mean, Pixar's knocked it out of the park. I think I think Toy Story 4 is movie like 18 or something like that, and I feel like they've knocked it out of the park almost every time. And whatever movies weren't home runs were definitely like doubles or triple bases, you know, like nobody got out. It wasn't a foul ball.
Right.
Definitely got on base with every movie they've ever made.
Yeah, Toy Story 4 was number 21.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
I can name them real quick.
Oh yeah, I know. I went through the other day and was just like happened to be looking through them to see what all was in there, and I was like, man, their roster is freaking incredible.
There's
Like,
a lot. There's a lot of meat still in that bone too. Like I would love to see a Bug's Life 2. I would love to see a Ratatouille 2. I would love to see a Wally follow up. I'd love to see an Up
oh man,
follow up.
Wally.
And Up. Wally and Up
Oh,
between those two right there. Like if they did a sequel to both of those, they would be the biggest movies that came out whatever year they come out.
Yeah, those were another two movies like Up and Wally. Man, those are just both incredible movies. Like I
Yep.
love the both of those.
Me too. And it looks like they're sort of picking up the pace a little bit, making like a movie or two a year instead of a movie every few years or every couple of years, which is what they've sort of traditionally done. So if we get, I mean, the next two are coming out both in 2020.
Yeah, and now even with Disney Plus, they have such a cool outlet for stuff that like if somebody has a really cool idea and it's like, oh, that doesn't really fit the format of a movie, we're not really going for that, kind of like the two Toy Story specials that came out, Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story That Time Forgot. Both really cool ideas, but they're like 45 minutes, like they're not movie ideas. They're not something that people have to pay in the theater to go see. But Disney Plus presents such a cool avenue to explore those more. And hopefully we will get, even if it's like the 45-minute specials for Wally and Up and like all these movies that we want to see more stories for, but they're scared people won't go to the movies to see it. Like I feel like A Bug's Life 2 would do good in theaters, but it wouldn't like blow people away. But Disney Plus is a great place to release that.
I think it could blow people away.
I don't, it's kind of when I was talking, when you said Bugs Life 2 is your second favorite, that's never anybody's favorite. And
yes, it is.
People,
it's a lot of people's.
I hear people get it confused with ants all the time. I just feel like people don't remember Bugs Life that well.
Nah. Heresy, I say.
always like whenever you and I are like debating something and I say something and you just like, what? Nah. Like that's just your point. You're like, no.
I mean, I have no imperial evidence to qualify my second favorite movie.
Have to like properly refute me. So just like, nah, no way.
Nah.
No.
People love it. People love them all.
I agree. And I would like to see A Bug's Life too. I just feel like Disney Plus would be a better outlet for it. But that's the good part again of Disney Plus. You and I are arguing of if 5 years ago, A Bug's Life 2 probably wouldn't have even been a thought on our minds. We would have been like, man, that'd be cool to see, but we'll probably never see it. But now with the Disney Plus inclusion, we're like, oh yeah, like it could totally happen.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes back to the conversation we've had 1,000 times about how awesome it is that the Disney streaming thing is happening, which is, again, is probably the only streaming service that I'm actually looking forward to, because the rest of them will just end up being a pile of crap you have to pay for to watch what you want, but Disney will actually be like a catalog.
Yes, I agree. It's the only studio-run streaming service I will probably ever pay for. Because, like, they're like, oh, Warner Brothers is coming out with one. I don't care.
No.
I don't care. What do they have in their back pockets? The DC movies? I got them all. What else do they have? There's nothing that they can do that I couldn't just, like, go out of my way to, like, wait a couple months for a Blu-ray to come out or something like that, or, like, find it in a different avenue, like on iTunes, or, like, there's nothing Warner Brothers could do to make me be like, oh yeah, let me pay $12 a month for their streaming service. No way.
Yeah, but you also buy physical copies now, which
That's true.
nobody does.
That's very true. And so there's
more people have Bugs Life as their second favorite Pixar movie than buy physical copies of movies anymore.
That's not true. There's an entire community of people on Instagram who buy physical copies of movies. Show me the Bugs Life community on Instagram, and I will believe you.
Oh, I will find it.
Look for the hashtag movie collection on Instagram, and I'm going to look for the hashtag A Bug's Life on Instagram, and we'll see how much of a difference it is. Let me know when you got yours. I'm looking for mine right now.
All right, what you got?
129K posts.
709K posts.
Yeah.
So I win.
What?
You said you had.
Yeah, 129,000. You had 709,000.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wow, a lot of these. I'm looking through the Bugs Life. Let me do. That might not be fair to you because I did a Bugs Life. Let me just do Bugs Life and see what that is because a lot of people on Instagram do not like those like the or oh
Well, that's
wow.
what I did. Bugs Life was 709,000.
Oh, you did Bugs Life?
Yeah.
I thought you were doing movie collection. I just did Bugs Life. Let me do movie collection then. What doesn't say? 354K.
So I still win.
So you won with Bugs Life, yes.
Bam. Told you so. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll wrap this puppy up.
I was waiting for you to do the outro since you won the hashtag battle.
Nah, I won't steal all your thunder.
Yeah, that's another segment of the show. Hashtag battle. You come in with one opinion, I'll come in with the other, and we'll leave it to Instagram hashtags to see who's right.
And the top post on A Bug's Life is actually a Bug's Life video.
Whenever I was looking up a Bug's Life, a lot of that was like actual insects and stuff, which I didn't know. It makes sense that people would use that as their IP to get people to check out their bug posts and stuff, but I didn't know that that was such a thriving community either.
Oh, yeah.
Had no idea. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our Toy Story podcast. We wrapped up a little bit with just talking about Bugs Life and insects in general. But we hope you enjoyed. If you've seen Toy Story 4, let us know below. What did you think about it? Have you been a big a fan of these movies as me, or were you kind of more in line with Crocker, where they're really good movies, but didn't really affect your life too much? Just entertaining movies that you could see as they were coming out. Let us know below. Join in on the conversation. If you want to be entered to win a free digital copy of Leatherface, please direct message me at Scruffy Movies on Instagram, the code word chainsaw, or write it directly below on the YouTube video you're watching right now. Please follow us on Instagram at Scruffy Movies.
And Crackalicious.
And we thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.